I am Alicia Peoples. I'm Regional Development Coordinator for Cure Search for Children's Cancer. I am the coordinator for the Southwest region, which includes Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico.
What do you do at Cure Search?
As Regional Development Coordinator, I provide a lot of support for our fundraising events, which are primarily the Cure Search Walk and Ultimate Hike, and will soon be Talking for Children's Cancer.
Why Cure Search?
I'm very passionate about curing cancer, getting better therapies, ultimately finding a cure. And Cure Search believes that only research cures cancer.
When did you start with Cure Search?
My first day with Cure Search was January 4th, 2012. Before that, I worked for Be the Match Marrow Registry, which was formerly the National Marrow Donor Program. And I did events. I had marrow awareness. Actually, we call them marrow recruitment drives. And they're primarily events where we try and educate and recruit people to the Be the Match Registry. Typically, we do those because a family or someone in the community requests, a marrow drive, and they've been affected by leukemia in some way. And then I also did fundraising to pay for tissue type testing. While the majority of the transplant is paid for by the patient's insurance, the tissue type testing is not, and it's about $52 a test. So that's where I started out, and it was fantastic work, really good.
What is Cure Search to you?
Cure Search allows me to come to work and do what I love, and bring people and resources together. There are people out there who have, and there are people who do not have. And I think that I'm a facilitator in bringing those two things together.
Is there something interesting that's happened before that made you go, how do I say it, like decide to be in Cure Search?
I've worked with cancer nonprofits before and medical related nonprofits before. And again, going back to being a facilitator and wanting that to sort of be my life's work. There's nothing that children can do really to help themselves. They are dependent on us as a society and us as adults to help them. And children's cancer is underfunded and under-researched. And so I think it's just a pleasure to get to come to work every day and move the needle closer towards a cure.
Is there an interesting story you'd like to mention?
Well, in some ways, every day is an interesting story because you deal with people and their lives, and there are constants. For us, cancer is a constant, children are a constant, families and especially mothers who nurture and birth these children are a constant. But then there are stories and specifics. For me personally, my mother lost her sister, her older sister, who was older than her by 11 months to cancer when they were 8 and 9 years old. And that has always been something that my mother talked about growing up, and her last days and months with her sister. And unfortunately, our treatments for childhood cancer haven't come very far since then. So it's my pleasure to get to try and do something about that.
Have you ever faced a difficult situation?
Yes.
Can you talk about it?
Yes, every day I think can present difficult situations where you're trying to find a way to bring resources to where they're most needed, and to find a way to do that in a professional and tactful manner, because this can be very emotional. It can be a very emotional job, and you need to be able to be emotional. and subjective to some extent, so that you can be, supportive of and remember why we do this. But it is also my job, and I have to be a professional about it.
So there isn't an instance that you just felt like you couldn't do it anymore?
Not yet.
Really?
And if that day comes, I will be a volunteer.
Are there any family members other than your sisters, your mom's sister, that have had cancer?
My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, died of lung and esophageal cancer. My paternal grandfather died of pancreatic cancer. One of my mother's other sisters has had ovarian cancer, and another one of her sisters has had a lot of problems with what I think was probably ovarian cancer, but was not discussed in detail in the family. She had a hysterectomy. So there's a lot of cancer in my family. And I think for most people, most Americans have a similar story. Like, cancer affects almost every family, I would say. And getting back to Cure Surge and children's cancer, besides leukemia, we're not offering the cure rates that we need to offer. So.
Would you say what happened to your family members has kept you motivated in this Cure Search?
Yes, definitely. And I'm not sure if this is something that you want, but this may be too psychological, but one of my earliest memories also is I lost a colt. I had a horse when I was a little girl, and it was pregnant, and my grandfather said, this colt that your horse is going to have will be your colt. And that's so exciting, because you're going to get to, grow up with this colt, and it's going to know your smell, and it's going to be your horse. I don't know. Like I said, I can't remember. I had to have been between 3 and 4 years old. And for whatever reason, after the colt was born, it never could stand. And so it couldn't nurse. And I remember being little and being with my mother and going to the feed supply store and getting a bottle and milk. And we went out to, feed this horse, feed my colt, and it was already gone. And so, I don't know, that's my only memory. For anybody that, knows anything about horses, even the simplest thing is if your horse can't stand, that's it. And so I think that also is a huge impact for me, that if there are things that we can do, we should do them to save lives.
Where did you study and what did you study?
Okay. I went to Trinity University in San Antonio for undergrad. And believe it or not, 1999 is when I graduated from high school, which sounds like that was ages ago.
You look so young.
And thank you. And that's another way to look at it. And in 2003, I graduated from Trinity with a bachelor's in political science and a minor in sociology. And then I went to Wake Forest University Law School. And I graduated from Wake with a JD in 2006. And then I did some legal research and writing, employment and civil rights law, but I never really wanted to practice law. I always wanted to be a lobbyist or do public interest work. And when I even looked at being an attorney or practicing or working for legal aid or something like that, I just kept feeling like I wanted to help people before they needed an attorney. So I had always volunteered and been involved with nonprofits. And so I thought, I kind of stumbled. I didn't expect to work for a medical nonprofit. I didn't expect to get into working with cancer patients or anything along those lines. I was thinking more domestic violence. And I've always wanted to work with women and children. So Cure Search is fantastic for that reason, because it is a children's focused nonprofit. Definitely love that I'm working for a foundation. I think foundations, get things done. They are making the kind of grants and making the kind of donations that definitely can make things happen. So that's fantastic. So I sort of was on this path, but not. It's funny how you don't know until you try things. So I started working for Be the Match at Carter Blood Care, and just loved it. And things happened, those departments merged, the Be the Match departments merged in Dallas, and I ended up working for Baylor Hospital in their bone marrow transplant department, which in some ways was phenomenal, because I'm working for a hospital that actually did the transplants. But at the same time, I felt like I wasn't able to be as creative as I wanted to be. And definitely something like Talking for Children's Cancer wouldn't have really been a possibility for me to be able to work on something like that. It would have been something that Baylor, I think, wouldn't have I wouldn't have had the ability to just say, let's do this, and let's, take advantage of that opportunity. And the same with Be the Match. They're a little bit bigger. So, going into 2 months at Cure Search is great. I see the company as living their mission, and it's exciting to be a part of that.
If you had a chance to do it all over again, would you be somewhere else other than Cure Search?
No. I work for Cure Search because I want to. And so let's say I hit the lottery or something, I would do this